Hey monkeys, how you doing? Damien Keys here. Welcome to How to Make Money as a Musician series, video number 5. And today we are talking about session musicianing. If you haven't seen any other videos, they're on YouTube. You can go and find out about singing teaching. You can find about an overview of making money as a musician. We talked about merchandise. We've even talked about covers. But today we are talking about the world of you being a session musician. Now, a session musician is someone who is a hired hand, a bounty hunter musician, someone who gets paid to turn up and do a job. So firstly, we need to understand what sort of surroundings that could be. If you are a guitarist, a bass player, a drummer, a singer, a violin player, it doesn't matter. Effectively, if someone needs your services, they hire you, they bring you in to do a certain job, the job that they want you to do, using your experience and to be able to give your advice, but on the whole, you are brought in as a hired hand. So let's look at the landscape of what being a session musician is. What does that actually mean? Well, you could be touring the world, playing the biggest stadiums, or you could be making records that go out to millions of people across the globe, or from time to time, you might just be playing gigs in pubs, whatever people need you to do. And that is kind of the life of being a session musician. It's very, very ups and downs. And let me tell you a story which kind of sums up my music career. Way back in the day, which was probably a Wednesday, I was very lucky enough to play at what was at the time the biggest gig that this country had ever put on. It was 150,000 people in Hyde Park, and there were some amazing artists playing: Alanis Morissette, Bob Dylan, The Who. And I remember standing on stage. I was playing Pinball Wizard, and the guitarist Pete Townsend from The Who is like a couple of feet away, and there's all these amazing huge rock stars. Eric Clapton's there, and Gary Glitter's over there somewhere. Less said about him the better. And all these amazing musicians are all around, and I'm standing on stage and I was just thinking, wow, this is incredible. Like this is the greatest moment of my life. I'm playing such a massive stadium. I can't even see the back of this festival. Not a stadium, it was a park. And then 3 days later, I was playing in a social club to about 5 people. And I was thinking, wow, this really is a contrast from a musical career, playing to 150,000 people, which went out to something like 300 million people worldwide on the TV. And then 3 days later, playing to 5 or 6 people in a working men's club where 5 of them probably worked there, and it was one guy who brought his dog. And that kind of sums it up, because at the end of the day, you need to get paid as a musician. So you're constantly trying to find the work. So this video is all about how you can build up as a session musician so you can have a long life of playing your instrument and having someone pay for it and taking you on their journeys and adventures at the same time. Tip number 1, experience. Now, experience is the name of the game, because you are being brought in as a specialist to do a job because of the experience that you have, which means you have to build up that experience. Something I hear a lot about on Facebook is when musicians whinge about plumbers. You wouldn't expect a plumber to turn up and do that for free. No, but you would absolutely expect a plumber to turn up and know every problem and every solution to do with their job. And that's exactly what a session musician needs to do. Because if you think about going and doing live gigs, you've got lots of experience as a live musician. Do you have a lot of experience in the studio? I can say I don't. I've probably done, I don't know, close to 2,000 gigs in my life, which is a lot of gigs. So I know that when I turn up to do a gig, I know I've got the experience that if something's going to go wrong, if I can't find a way around it, there's not many people who can. When I go in the studio, I don't have that much experience. I've got experience as an educator and as a live musician. I've probably been in the studio 40 times in my career, properly 30, 40 times. Like if you look at the difference between 2,000 gigs and 40 times in the studio, one is massively experienced and the other one is a bit experienced. And so you've got to get this experience, you've got to build it, which means you've got to go and play. If you are not gigging tonight, there needs to be someone asking that question. Why are you not gigging? Why are you not out there? This is very important, that you are building up experience so that you can get better as a player, you can meet more people, you can network, but more importantly, you can become an absolute master at what you do. Number 2, do you drive and do you have a car? Now, I know I bang on about this a lot, but this is really, really important, because if you don't drive or have a car, how are you going to get to your gig? And if you're a session musician, you might be taking 2 or 3 guitars, you might be taking your amp, your pedal board. You can't carry it on a train, you can't take it on public transport. And also, if you're going to be doing this as a career, you can't just expect your girlfriend or your best mate to drop you off every 5 minutes. So you need to be able to drive and you need to get a car. And one thing I hear a lot when we deal with musicians is, if I get the work, I'll get a car. Let me tell you something, that does not fly. If you get a car, you'll get the work, not the other way around, because we get stuff come through the office all of the time. And the amount of times that question gets answered, do they drive? Oh, they don't drive. Oh, in which case, on to the next person. Is it fair? Doesn't make any difference whether it's fair. That's what happens because you're putting your problems onto someone else. We have to try and find someone who can get you there, or we have to trust that you can find someone who can get you there. It's just too much hassle. So it's not, if you get the work, you'll get a car. It's, if you get a car, then people will take you serious enough to give you the work. Number 3, stop with the forgettable image. There's this weird kind of misconception with being a session player that you've just got to fade into the background and never be seen. Maybe that was the case in the 90s, but that's just not the case now. Image is everything. We are in a fashion-based industry, so you can't just fade into obscurity with just black shirt, black trousers, black shoes, mask over your head. It doesn't work like that. You are part of a show. So you have to have just as good as image as an artist or to fit into that band. Forget this idea that you are not part of the show. You absolutely are part of the show. Even if you are standing at the back, you still have to look the part. And I see so many people that call themselves session musician wannabes, and it's the classic black shirt, black trousers, and you look like part of the stage crew. And I don't want you to look part of the stage crew. I want you to have an image where someone looks at you and goes, that one, I want that person on my tour, because they look absolutely awesome. Number 4, other instruments. Now, we live in a time where money is tight when it comes to tours. So if you can bring something else to the party by playing other instruments, it makes you more employable. And that is a big thing. That's what we're talking about. How do you become employable? If you're a bass player or guitarist and you can add some synth into the equation, you become a lot more employable and a lot more powerful. If you can do BVs or even sing some lead, then you become more powerful and more employable. And there's no reason why a guitarist can't play some bass. There's absolutely no reason why a bass player can't be able to pick up a guitar and be able to play some extra acoustic to fill in the sound. There's no reason why as a bass player you can't learn a few chords on the keyboard or learn to sing, so that you can make this band sound bigger without employing more people. So if you want to be employable, make yourself employable, and the way you do that is by starting to look at extra strings to your bow, and learning another instrument is a really key way of doing that. Number 5, gear. Now, gear is really important because as a musician, a session musician, you're kind of rent a guy, and therefore one size doesn't necessarily fit all. You may be asked to have a few different sounds in your arsenal. So when it comes to pedals, amps, guitars, you're probably going to need a little bit of a section, but most importantly, everything has to work 100% of the time. You are being brought in to do a professional job. There are no excuses that you might get if you are the guitarist in a band. This is up to you to make sure that not only do you have the right gear for what they want, but that it is 100% functional. I know this sounds really obvious, but you would not believe the amount of auditions I have been in where excuses have been made. Oh, my pedal board's playing up, or oh, I need to sort my guitar out, or my amp's a little bit on the blink, I need to get it sorted. You have not got time for that if you are rent-a-guy. At this point, you need stuff that works, and you need a multitude of different types of instruments and sound at the ready, so you are brought in to do the job that they want you to do. Number 6, we're playing the long-term game. And that means that what we do now goes towards our career over the next 20, 30 or 40 years. So for the moment, this is about making contacts. This is about playing. It's about experience. It's about getting people to come to you. And it's not just about the money. And yes, I know you want to get paid for your work. But if you think about money first, I guarantee this is going to be a lot tougher. If you are not gigging this weekend, in my opinion, you are failing at something. You're not doing something right. And you need to figure out how you can be gigging this weekend and the next weekend. And personally, as a musician, any weekend that goes past where I'm not playing, I'm gutted. I'd be texting people and saying, is there anyone needing a bass player? Is there anyone needing a singer? Is there anyone needing anything that I can do to get on that gig? Because you don't know what's going to come from that gig, not just the money. And if it means you take less money or even no money to fill in a gap, fuck it, why not? Just do it. Get the gigs. This is a long-term game. This is not about the next 12 months or the next 18 months. This is about the next 20, 30 or 40 years of your life. Number 7, social media tip 1, show off your playing. Now, if you are playing and performing with as many people and as many times as you should be, which is 2, 3, 4 times a week, then you should be showing off your playing. You should be showing off how versatile you are as a player, how good and how technically proficient you are as a player, so that when someone says, I need a guitarist, and someone recommends you, they go straight onto your social media or your website, they see you play, they see your look, and they think, this one is exactly what I'm looking for. And in order to do that, you've got to be doing it regularly. I'm not just talking about once, I'm talking about a constant stream. You bring people into your world by saying, and here's me playing this style of music, and here's me playing this piece, and here's me on stage doing this, and here's me playing this track. All of a sudden, people understand what it is you do. You are someone who can be brought in to do a job, but you've got to show that off. It can't just be, I'm really busy, it's a word of mouth thing anymore. Nowadays, it's got to be out there. And there are great platforms like YouTube, obviously Facebook, Instagram, where you can actually play and it's out there forever. And you are in control of this TV station, of this TV channel, of your playing. So if I were you, I would be putting something out there with your playing 3, 4 or 5 times a week. And if you look at guys like Ash Sohn on drums, if you look at Matthias, what's his name, on guitar, there's loads of these guys who are just putting out really, really great content of their playing almost daily, and it brings them work in. So your job from a social media point of view is to put the proof in. Prove to people that you can do the job with your playing, and the way you do that is record it and push it out there. Tip 8, show off your business. Yes, you want to show off your playing, but something bigger than that is adding in social proofing and social currency. If people are seeing you out there performing a couple of times a week, they're going to know that you can do the job. They're going to have that trust and that faith in you, and therefore are more likely to phone you up and ask you to come and play for them. So if you are out playing, wherever it is, you should be getting footage of you performing live, not just in a bedroom playing, but actually out there doing it. If you are in the studio, you are saying to people, and here I am in the studio, and here I am at rehearsal, and here I am at a gig. Because every time you do this, one message is going into people's brains. This person knows their stuff because they're obviously out there doing it again and again and again, and it's building proof, it's building trust, and that will stick with people for a long, long period, and you'll be getting calls down the line for years and years and years. Social media tip number 9. I also want you to show how available you are, especially via text message or WhatsApp. You can build up a little group of people to be able to message them so that when you don't have a gig, you can say, I don't have a gig, has anyone got a gig for me? And a few years back, there was a guy called Smiley, and he used to message this group every so often when he didn't have a gig, which wasn't very often. And he used to say, Friday, Saturday, I don't have a gig. If anyone needs a Smiley drummer, then give me a shout. And I used him a bunch of times, but loads of people would have done the same thing, and he was always gigging because he was Rent-A-Drummer, and he would turn up and do a great job, but he would tell me when he was free, so if I needed someone or if I knew someone who needed someone, he was spreading the word. He was putting in the advertising. So yes, you want to put social proof in, yes, you want to tell people how busy you are, but if you do have some dates that you're looking to fill, advertise it. Tell people, let people know, I've got a couple of dates free. Do you want them? Number 10, make something happen. Now, some of you might be watching this thinking, I'm not gigging that much. I'm not even playing with that many people, but I'd like to get into session playing. Well, let me tell you something. You now can make something happen. If you can project manage in a small way. You can actually go and find artists from local colleges, great singers, hook them up with songwriters, or if they're great singer-songwriters, approach them at open mics or wherever you see them and say, this would be great with a band, and I can put a band around you, and then you can do the music part, because a lot of artists struggle with that bit. So if you become the MD and you actually go and find, if you're a drummer and you find a bass player and a guitarist and a keyboard player, or you're a guitarist and you need to find a bass player and a backing singer and something else, you can do that and you can actually make things happen. And what I see far too much of is musicians waiting. If a gig comes up, I'll do the gig. No, attack it. Take the bull by the horns and actually go and make something happen. And the way you do that is go and find artists and musicians that you believe in, and you actually just say, we're going to make this happen. This is great artist that I've seen. I want to put a band around her. And that way you can then be more in control of the artist that you play for. So I'm guessing I'd call this MDing skills, kind of project management skills, but don't just wait, do auditions, wait for artists to ask you. Actually make artists rather than waiting for them to come and find you. All right, well, that's my top 10 tips on how you can start working towards being a session player. I can't stress enough, the biggest part of this is getting out there, getting experience and playing anywhere and everywhere as much as you can. If you like the video, I'd love it if you like and subscribe and comment and show your friends and send me some parcels, maybe some chocolates. I would like that a lot. Anything you need, it all happens in the DMs. Hit me up either in the comments below or DM me and I'll see if I can help you with anything you've got going on. Otherwise, thanks very much. I'll see you guys tomorrow.